Namaste, imagination. Imagine a nation of storytellers. After all, this is what we are as humans. From the first fireside stories beneath the stars, to the meaningful myths of the many spirit beings, to heroes, superheroes, to comic book characters, Hollywood portrayals of comic book characters, movies, video games, AI animation. There's a simple fact. Human beings imagine. Someone once joked that Albert Einstein's hair looked electric. Why? Because he was in a state of intellectual ecstasy. Among others, Einstein recognized the wisdom of imagination. Behavioral science concurs that imagination builds neural brain connections, resulting in flexible thinking, profound memory, and goal orientation. Creative divergent thinking develops, wherein one recognizes various solutions and not just one way. So parents, encourage your children to dream. Encourage their fantasies. Thomas Edison was famous for his frequent cat naps during the day, and he recognized the wisdom of dreaming and imagination. He's credited with over 2,000 patents worldwide. Dream, create, relax. Tesla, too, accredited with 300 patents, and of course AC current, among other things, claimed to have designed in his head before manifestation. His mother was also renowned for inventing several household tools and was said to have a massive memory. Leonardo da Vinci was famous for long, relaxing walks in the forests of Tuscany. And in the Hindu yoga religion, the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali says, Chitta Vritta Nirodha. Calm the waves of the mind. Why? In this case, to uncover the inner reality, or Atmana. Joseph Pfeiffer, a 20th century German philosopher, wrote a book titled, quote, Leisure, the Basis of Culture, unquote. Not to be confused with laziness. In the tumultuous time after World War II, Pfeiffer advocated restoring culture through contemplation, celebration, art, music, dance, and inner stillness. Human beings appear to have a persistent psychological tendency to populate reality with intelligent presences, often beyond the visible world. From the earliest tribes to modern digital civilization, human beings have imagined, interacted with, and even depended upon beings that cannot be seen in ordinary material form. And this tendency is not limited to religion. It is one of the most consistent patterns in the entire history of human nature. To ancient people, the world was not empty. It was inhabited. It was alive. Mountains, rivers, forests, animals, storms, all were thought to possess spirit consciousness. The visible world was only one layer of reality. Behind it, another realm populated by unseen intelligences. As civilizations grew, the unseen world was becoming organized. Spirits became gods. The invisible realm developed hierarchies, divine societies governing nature, destiny, morality, cosmic order. Gods ruled the sky. Angels delivered messages. Demons, of course, tempted the human heart. The universe was imagined not as an empty machine, but as a living drama filled with personalities and intentions. In Greece, we had Zeus, Athena, Poseidon, Apollo, and of course the counterparts, the demons, Medusa, Damien. In Rome, we had Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Neptune, and the demons Lars, Genius, Lemurs. Shinto, one of the oldest religions of the world, no founder, no date founded, like Hinduism, saw the kami everywhere, the divine spirits. And Sakura Shmataresu Susanu, and the many demons Oni, Tengu, and Yokai. In Buddhism, which comes from Hinduism, we find Sakura, Brahma, Samampati, and the demons Mara and the Rakshasas. Life is not mono. It is polymorphic. It's often joked that Hindus worship 33 million gods. Gods is not the proper word, obviously. And a quick retort to that is, no. 33 million and one. Life is polymorphic. The more anyone delves into a subject, the more is unfolded. And these deities are highly symbolic. And the Hindu seeks to imbibe the very symbolic messages that they portray. You have Ganesha and Shiva and Vishnu and Krishna and Kali, Saraswati, etc., etc. And demons too, Tarika, Ravana. So in an example with Ganapati, Ganesha, the big belly represents contentment. So looking at that, one is reminded to seek a life of santosha or contentment rather than being a malcontent. So too in Judaism, Christianity, you have angels and archangels, Michael, Gabriel. And of course you have the counterpart. You have evil, demon, Satan. So too in Islam, we have the angels and the harmful jinn. Human beings have always been attracted to mythical heroes, especially young boys. They may dress up as the Hindu deity Ram or Hanuman. Watch the world in Halloween time when people dress up like their favorite superheroes, perhaps. These historical figures often exhibit extraordinary strength, courage, moral struggle. They embody human aspirations. Many young boys wish to be Superman and showed what humanity might become if only our limitations could be transcended. In the 20th century, something fascinating happened. The ancient myths did not disappear. They just changed costumes. Gods and heroes returned as superheroes, which young people emulated, much as they emulate sports figures. Batman battles the darkness in the city. Green Lantern commands cosmic power. Aquaman rules the oceans. Superman flies through the sky. The old mythological imagination continues, now wearing capes instead of crowns. And there's an entire entertainment civilization, huge industry that exists, putting forth these science fiction, comic created worlds, film studios, animation companies, comic universes, theme parks. And all of this employs hundreds of thousands of people. Billions of dollars circulate each year through the creation of sci-fi, imagined worlds, superheroes. In the sports realm, often considered very macho, if you will, here too we have mythical figures, perhaps. Philly Fanatic. All of this stimulates a sense of community. A religious gathering and a sports arena gathering share a lot in common. And this is not just trivial entertainment. It reveals something deep about the human mind. We seem endlessly drawn to stories populated by comical figures, beings greater than ourselves. And there's obviously a tremendous sense of devotion to all of this. It is a fact that human beings are devotional creatures. This isn't a flaw, nor an accident of history. Actually, without devotion, nothing of significance is learned, mastered, preserved, or transmitted. Culture itself is shaped by what human beings choose to love, imagine, and serve. Modern society often treats devotion to commercial fantasy and devotion to religion as opposites, but they are not. Seemingly one is harmless, the other is suspect. Yet psychologically they arise from the same human faculty. The imagination needs to enter symbolic worlds that give life coherence, meaning, and direction. The magic kingdom of Disney and the magic domain of religion both create mythic spaces. Both rely on story, symbol, ritual, repetition. Both shape values, identity, behavior. And both, when unexamined, carry risks as well, along with their gifts. Disney's devotion openly celebrates fantasy. It invites people to suspend disbelief knowingly and joyfully. Characters are not mistaken for literal beings, yet they function as, in many cases, moral archetypes. Embodiments of courage or innocence, perhaps loyalty, betrayal, redemption, and families return, generation after generation, not because the fantasy is real, but because it is meaningful. The Disney Empire operates 12 major theme parks around the world, as well as numerous outlet stores generating billions upon billions of dollars. Disney employs a workforce of over 200,000, plus an even larger number of indirect jobs. All of this basically about a talking mouse. And then one is going to criticize religions and their spirit beings. Disney's magic demonstrates the economic and cultural power of imagination. Vast creative ecosystems, artists, engineers, musicians, designers, performers, they all depend on devotion to shared stories. And the fantasy here is not mere escapism alone, it's a social glue and a source of livelihood. At the same time, Disney devotion makes no claim on ultimate reality. It comforts without demanding transformation. Disney's devotion makes no claim to ultimate reality. Its magic is bounded, curated, and consumable. When devotion remains unconscious, it can encourage prolonged escape rather than deep engagement with one's life, suffering, and responsibility. Religious devotion operates in a similar domain. It does not merely invite precipitation, however, it addresses ultimate questions. about suffering, death, purpose, morality, transcendence. Religious myths do not ask only to be enjoyed, they ask to be lived. At its best, religious devotion integrates imagination with ethics, symbol with discipline, and story with self-examination. And it nurtures compassion, humility, service, and continuity across generations. Much of humanity's greatest art, music, architecture, and moral reflection emerge from this domain. However, at its worst, religious devotion becomes rigid and unexamined. Symbolism hardens into literalism. When authority replaces inquiry, when devotion is exploited for control rather than wisdom, when imagination is suppressed, instead of guided, religion loses its transformative power and becomes coercive and delusional. What unites Disney devotion and the religious devotion is not illusion versus reality, but symbolic meaning versus unexamined use of symbols. Not all human beings are devoted to illusions. They are devoted to what the symbols provide: belonging, orientation, hope, coherence, and entertainment. The crucial difference lies in demand. Disney devotion asks for attention and consumption. Religious devotion asks for transformation and ethical accountability. This makes it more demanding and more threatening, yet also more capable of depth. The task is not to reject fantasy or faith, but to examine devotion itself. Examined devotion remains flexible, humane, and life-giving. Unexamined devotion becomes unconscious, rigid, and potentially destructive. Fantasy, meaningful myth, and faith are not rivals to the intellect. These human qualities are mirrors, revealing how deeply the human psyche depends on imagination to survive and to flourish. Remember, Dorothy had the power to go home all the time. So too do we. And the ultimate question is not whether we believe in magic, but whether we understand the magic we already live in. Interestingly, in recent decades, several prominent thinkers have argued strongly against belief in any supernatural beings. Writers like Christopher Hitchens, the late Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and Sam Harris have ultra-criticized religion as irrational and harmful. Would they do the same about fantasies, Disneyland, Disney World, comic book heroes, superheroes? Yet something's curious when we watch them speak. They may sit or stand before an audience, often behind lecterns or pulpits, if you will, addressing huge crowds with passion and conviction. At times there's gentle irony. And interestingly, even critics of religion can appear in settings that resemble an old human ritual, the sermon. The pulpit has simply changed its subject. Today, humanity has entered a new stage. We enter directly with artificial intelligence and interact. Machines generate images such as this, conversations, and personalities. These intelligences are intangible, yet we communicate with them. Humanity has begun creating its own invisible interlocutors. For the first time in history, imagined intelligence has become interactive. Across every era of history, humanity has filled the unseen dimension of reality with agency and meaning. from the beginning, quote unquote. Spirits, gods, heroes, superheroes, and digital intelligences. The forms change, but the human impulse remains remarkably constant. Perhaps this tendency tells us something important about human psychology. Perhaps we are creatures who cannot help but imagine, and imagine intelligences beyond ourselves. A line from the film We're No Angels, quote, "If it comforts you to believe in God or fill in the blank, do it." We could extend this saying out, keeping in mind we don't infringe upon another. If it comforts you to believe in a spirit being, a superhero, etc., do it. That's your business. And if you take on any positive qualities represented by these non-physical entities, so much the better. It's all part of a long and fascinating story of the human imagination. If we look again at the title of the aforementioned film, in humility, we all can claim that we are no angels. But we are storytellers, wanderers, seekers, trying to understand a mysterious universe. Finally, for now, this human tendency towards the invisible, from the earliest cave markings to the gods of Olympus, from the devas of India to the angels of the Abrahamic faith, from ancestral spirits to superheroes and animated worlds, to humans dressing up as their favorite or comical mascot. Human beings have always reached beyond the visible. We do not merely live in the world, we interpret it, we animate it, and people it with meaning. Joseph Campbell knew this. This is not a flaw. It's one of our greatest gifts. It is the root of art, and myth, and poetry, and religion. It is what allows us to transform fear into story, mystery into symbol, and existence into something lived and felt. But the same gift carries a shadow. When symbols are mistaken for exclusive, literal truths, when one vision of the unseen claims final authority over all others, when imagination hardens into dogmatism, remember we all have dogma or opinions, dogmatism is something else, then what was once creative becomes divisive. History shows this clearly. The moment the infinite is confined to a single form, it begins to exclude, to compete, and at times to even destroy. And so the task is not to abandon the unseen, but to understand it rightly. To see gods, spirits, devas, kamis, superheroes, not as rivals, but as expressions of the human encounter with mystery. To appreciate them as languages and teaching lessons, but not as absolutes. As windows, not walls. In this way, the same impulse that once led to conflict can instead lead to connection. For when we recognize that all these forms arise from the same human depth, we may no longer ask which one is right, but rather, what is being expressed here? Is this symbolism meaningful to my life? And in that shift, imagination now becomes wisdom. Einstein knew it, Thomas Edison, Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci. And diversity becomes richness. And the unseen becomes not a battlefield, but a shared horizon. Pondering the vastness and one's place in it.